Time to fight fear with faith. Jody Paar is a survivor who is no longer staying silent. She and her guest will fuel you up so you too can fight fear. Uplifting and inspirational stories that will rock you to your core. We don't tiptoe around the truth. We steamroll it in a bold way. This is your life, and now is the time to start living it. Get ready for the Faith Over Fear podcast with Jody Paar. Now, welcome Jody Paar to inspire you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Faith Over Fear. I'm Jody Paar. I'm so glad you're here. We have a very special guest. Renee Reisch is here today. I hope I said that correctly.
Reisch.
Sometimes Reisch. See?
Reisch.
Say it again.
Reisch.
Reisch. There it is. All right, perfect. And she is a four-time international best-selling author. She is also a speaker. She is an ambassador for Chemo Buddies. She is a transformation coach. She does a lot of different things, and she's going to tell you about her book, which is called Finding Your Voice, Unlocking Your Chains and Unleashing Your Greatness. So woo, what a powerful, powerful title that is. But Renee, we always want to go back and start in that dark place that nobody really wants to go to, because a lot of people think that you're just an overnight success or you never went through trials and tribulations. So can we just go back to a first time that you felt fear in your life?
Absolutely. You know, biggest fear is actually what catapulted the book, and it was losing my voice. I was a manager in corporate America, and I had an illness. I had a sore in my throat. I didn't know what it was. It was a sore that was it was different than a sore throat. I knew something was wrong and something was different because it didn't feel like a typical sore throat. So the next morning I went to urgent care, and I actually told the doctor, I feel like there's a sore in my throat, not a sore throat. She looked and she said, it is right in the middle of your throat. I said, that's what it feels like. And she said, well, you know, let's do a test. You ran like a rapid strap test to see if there was what it was. And it didn't show anything other than there was an infection. The next morning when I woke up, it was like that one sore gave birth overnight to many. And I went back, and my best friend, who was one of my angels right now with my dad in heaven, drove me back to urgent care. And that one sore did give birth overnight. And she never told me how many there were because she knew I'd have a tough time hearing it. So she did tell my best friend that she needs to get to the ER now. That kind of spoke volumes to me. So we did end up getting to the ER, and it was the beginning of a road that I never anticipated. I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, one of the doctors, when they looked at it, they said, we don't know if this is permanent damage. And that is very devastating to hear. When those who know me know I love to speak, I love to connect with other people. So, you know, the biggest things I love most, and aside from God, which I never want to say aside, but he's number one in my life, and then my family, is speaking and connecting. And those were the two other things that were taken, I'm not going to say from me. At the time it was taken from me. They were taken for me, because I was always go, 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 go. And I needed to stop, slow down, and use these two things and be quiet for a moment with this one thing.
Oh, you just give me chill bumps. Wow, that's powerful, Renee. Yes.
And just listen, you know, the power of being quiet, the power in silence. And there is a lot of power to it. I was not spiritual at the time. So, you know, it wasn't like sit down and do some affirmations or sit down and sit in prayer. I was in corporate America. I didn't know this whole transformation that I now do for others is what I was going through, but I didn't know it at the time. I wasn't in that kind of a headspace. I was, like I said, in corporate America, and I was a manager, and I was running all over the place, doing so much for everybody, but never taking time for me. And that was a God smack to say, you got to slow down, because otherwise you'll be visiting me sooner than you want. And sooner than I want you to, because you've got work to do down there. Yeah. And unless you get your act together, it's not going to happen.
Wow.
So that was a message that I now know was a message then, but you couldn't talk to me about it then. I just didn't understand. But I did know that I didn't have an option. I was quiet, not by choice, but by chance and by fate, because I needed to be quiet. I needed to stop, and I needed to listen And I needed to come to a screeching halt in order to do that, because otherwise I never would have. And he knew that. God knew that. So I did. And he also knew that I needed a special vessel in my life to help me through that time. And that was my best friend, who is up in heaven with God and with my Father. And if it wasn't for the grace of God and for the grace of my best friend in my life, I would not. And I say that truthfully, I really don't believe I would be here speaking with you and your audience today. I really don't, in my heart of hearts, believe I would be, because I didn't want to survive. The pain that I endured and that I felt every day for 4 consecutive months. It was close to 4 months. You know, when you have, you know, people have had strep throat, they've had sore throats. Just think of it like at 100x, because, you know, you can't even swallow your own saliva. Not to be graphic about it, but that's what it was. How do you want to drink water? How do you want to even drink tea or some kind of cough drop? You don't want to do anything. You just want to you want to like escape from your own skin. And the thing is, I couldn't. And I didn't know how it was going to turn around, because it wasn't one day was a little bit better, or later in the day got a little bit better, or in the morning and the evening were worse. Because usually when you have a sore throat or something, it's usually morning and night, because you're in a laying down position, it's usually worse. This was a 24/7. I didn't have any relief in the morning or the afternoon or the evening. One of my chapters in the book is called Sunrise, Sunset, because I basically looked out the window to see life happening outside, and I saw sunrise and I saw sunset. And that was my experience. It's very interesting. We're doing this in during COVID-19, as we're doing this interview in you know, November almost. We're in the end of October of 2020. And, you know, although everyone's like 2020, clear vision, I think it really does give people a chance to slow down and stop and to have that clear vision.
Yeah.
You know, instead of looking at it as like, oh my God, what a horrible time in our history, you know, it is for the loss of the lives for sure. Not even a question, not even, yes. And I pray for those families who have lost loved ones. My heart goes out to each and every one of them. What it has done for those who are here, hopefully what it's doing is giving them the chance and the opportunity and the choice to slow down and stop and listen. And we hear the word pivot, but to turn to where they need to be in their own life. And a lot of it has to start from going within. Like that saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. You really can't. If your cup is not full, you can't give to others. And in the position I was in corporate America, I was always pouring into others and never into myself, until I was stopped to that screeching halt and said, you've got to slow down and you're going to stop. You don't have a choice anymore. I'm taking the reins. You know, you don't really have that choice. There was nothing I could do but just to be still. And my best friend used to come over with a mask. Again, I said, very interesting. We're doing this interview now. Before this quarantine was here, I was self-quarantined. I didn't have an option because I was so contagious. I wasn't allowed to be with the public. And quite frankly, I couldn't anyway. I was so weak because I wasn't taking any food or protein or anything. But she would come to my apartment with a mask on. I'd be looking out the window with the sunrise and sunset and seeing her driving up with a bag of food that she thought I could, like Jello or applesauce or Gatorade. And I know that I said I couldn't even swallow anything. How can I take what and I did write this in the book also. The love that was behind what she was doing for me was greater. As great as the pain was, it was greater than the pain I was experiencing. Wow. And I knew that she was doing this to keep me alive. And how could I give up on myself when my best friend was there helping me to not give up on myself? And she wasn't giving up on me.
That's so, man, just chill bumps. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You know, one of my favorite movies is Little Mermaid. and she loses her voice, and it's difficult because she can't communicate with anybody. And so you went through that to where you didn't have a voice. And I know you're a lot like me. You like to talk. I like to talk. So when I get laryngitis, it's like, oh, I have to write something on a piece of paper or text or whatever just to communicate. Did you go through like a time of, am I ever going to hear my voice again? Am I ever going to, did I forget what my voice sounded like? Did you ever go through that? 4
It's
months
a
is a
great,
long time.
it is a long, you know, I actually didn't. At the time, I don't remember thinking, am I going to ever speak again? I say that because now looking back at it, did I think that? I believe at the time I was in so much pain that I didn't know what was really happening other than this was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a low grade fever because it was an infection. The
Right.
fact that doctors couldn't heal me, that scared me.
Right.
To sit in your own hell
Mm.
day after day with no end in sight, like, well, take these pills, you'll feel better in 7 to 10 days, we'll do a follow-up. It was a virus. There was no take these pills, we'll do a follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
Like as the illness was going on, I remember being sent to a specialist to see if it was permanent. When they said, I also write this in the book, that was like the scariest trip I ever took, because to know that they may look down your throat and say, there's scars all over and you're not going to talk again, would have been a horrible thing to hear. And they didn't say that. I was sitting in that chair next to their white coats that, like, what are they going to tell me? Is my voice? And if it does come back, what's it going to sound like?
Mm-hmm.
And, I knew nothing. All I knew, I was scared out of my pants.
Of course.
I was scared
Of course.
because you just, you take things for granted. You wake up, you there's no guarantee of anything. I'm not being, a Debbie Downer. I'm a very positive person.
Right.
I'm saying that because you don't know. That's because we take things for granted is why I'm saying this. You would say, well, you make plans for the next day. Nobody thinks you're not going to be here. You think you're going to be here, so you make plans. We plan, we go, we do. Even in this virtual world, we're planning and we're going and we're doing. And, it's just really incredible that you really need to sometimes stop and go within and take that quiet time to find your own voice.
Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful. I mean, even my book, it's Breakout Silent Soldier, nothing was keeping me from talking but myself. And so many times we silence ourselves. And I love that you said, don't take advantage of something that you have. Like you literally couldn't talk. Like you literally could have had your whole voice taken from you. But yet so many of us can speak but we let our mindsets keep us from speaking out, or we let what someone said to us keep us quiet and keep us silent when God gave you a voice for a reason, and we are to use it. And I love how you are using yours and what all you are doing. So when did the tables turn? When did the light come in? When did things turn around?
It's another good question, Jody. My best friend, as I was saying, she passed in 2017. And I really didn't know what I was going to do. My position in that corporate world was, I was released. And I say released because it was a release in a way that I didn't understand, because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror after I was released, because that's all I had done for 25 years was this one job. I had different positions. I held different positions for those, quarter of a century. For that quarter of a century I was there. But I didn't know what was the next chapter for Renee. What am I going to do? And I had people coming to me saying, you should write a book. I'm like, what? I got to get a job. What kind of book? And because they knew my story, that it was interesting that the illness came back into my mind while I was thinking about what am I going to do next. And it was interesting because I said to myself, why are you thinking about that time? That was such a black time in your life, such a dark time. And I don't know why I would think that. I kept thinking and thinking. And I said, gosh, why is this coming up? I haven't thought about this in 7 years since it happened. Why is it here? And I kept I kept closing the closet back on it. Cause I'm like, this passed, move forward. And I'm thinking maybe I thought about it because it was also a devastating time in my life. And I was back in a devastating time. I'm, what am I going to do? And maybe that's why, but then it wouldn't go away until it like knocked me so hard. And then I had more people calling me from different parts of the world. You should write a book. I'm like, what? You don't even know these other people that are telling me I should write a book. And then I started, and then I stopped, and then I started, and then I stopped. I'm like, I've never written one. I don't know what's the blueprint to write a book. I don't know.
Yeah.
But when you just write,
That's it.
I started writing. Then I'd put it down thinking, I got to get work. I got to get a job. I don't have time for this. And then I'd put it down and put it away. And I had things, papers all over my apartment from where I would jot down notes. And I still had stuff on the computer. And then it came to me and finished the book. I'm like, oh my God, finish the book. Then I said, no, I have to do this. I have to do that. Then one day while I was on a run, I like to work out. I like to be physically fit. Something came to my head. You could do this and that. And I said, I can't I? I ran back upstairs. I opened the computer. I started finishing. I don't know if that's a way to say it, but I began back on my path to finish the book. So I did that. And then I got it out there and I got it published and launched on February 3rd, 2020. It went to #1. And I'm very, very grateful for that. Very grateful. It was a voice that was silenced, that had to come out, needed to come out to serve the world. And, you know, your story, we go through things. Everyone's got a story.
Everybody.
But you have to be courageous to stand up and step out. And I do write this in the book too, that I didn't believe I was good enough. I didn't feel I was ever enough. So whatever story that happened in a past experience that I made my reality is what I was living. And I always felt that there was more for me, but I didn't know what it was. And as God would have it, you know, you get out of one position in your life, one chapter ends, but the story's not over.
That's it. It's so good. Yeah, that's exactly right.
You know, the story is what it is. It's a story. We have chapters in our life. One chapter ends, it doesn't mean the whole book is over. You go to the next chapter. And it's being able to wrap your mind around that part of it, because when you're involved, again, I'm going to use another, you know, kind of metaphoric phrase, you can't see outside the picture when you're inside the frame. And I was in the frame so much that I didn't know what was possible outside of it. And when you're so involved in what you're doing, you don't know what else is possible. And when you open yourself up to meeting people and possibilities and of doors and windows that are opening before you, you take advantage of those. And it's not taking advantage of people, you're taking advantage of an opportunity that's presenting itself. And you have choices in life. We all have choices. And it's being bold enough and brave enough to take the chance and make the choice. Now, you know, you don't know if it's the right choice or the wrong choice, but it's a decision. And I believe if you stick with your decision and you put power behind it and energy, you know, that's where you can create action. Yeah, energy is motion.
You know, so how did you get healing? First question. How did it go from 4 months of just pure hell to, thank God I can actually hear my voice again? And what was it like to hear your voice again?
So the first question, how did I get out of the pure hell? Again, I'm going to go back to my best friend and the grace of God, because I said earlier in this, you know, interview that if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have. I believe we're all vessels, and she was the vessel that was going to get me through it, because I wanted to just give up. And after she passed, I found a bracelet in her drawer that was buried under her sock drawer, and it says, never give up. And I believe I was meant to find it. Why I would go looking through her sock drawer, I have no idea.
Right.
Why would you? Who? It's not my business really. Why would I? But I was drawn to go in there. I opened her top drawer and then I saw socks and I decided for whatever reason, maybe I was being guided there. I don't understand why I would start going through her socks.
Right.
And I found the bracelet and I'm not wearing it right this second because I wore it so much that I started wearing it out and I don't want to wear it out. So I carry it in my handbag with me all over. And it's, you know, and that was something she never gave up. Not just on me, but in her own life. She was an example. You know, she always said, follow my lead, follow my example. And she, boy, did she set a great one.
She did.
A very great one, because it's being there for yourself. She always took time for herself. And she, you know, sometimes she would say, I need space, I need this. She would take time for herself, and then she'd be able to be there for others in a bigger and stronger way. And we need to do that. And I need to always follow that. I don't always, I'm a work in progress, as we all are. But you know, you just want to be there for others. But again, you need to first take care of yourself in a selfless manner, not a selfish manner, because you can then be there for other people in a bigger, stronger way. So in a roundabout answer, that's how I got through it. It was because of her faith and her belief in me, and her continuously coming over and dropping things off with her mask on, coming up the stairs. She couldn't stay long because obviously she didn't want to get sick. And just to check in on me and to let me know that she was there for me and that I wasn't alone. My parents couldn't be. They were older, and they're now, my dad's not even with us anymore. My mom still is. And so I couldn't be with them. They couldn't take me in their home. And if I'm that contagious, nobody's allowed to be with me. I had to be by myself. So she lived really close to me, right around the corner. And so she would check in on me, physically check in on me. And that was really made all the difference in the world. So it took a long time. It was about a 4-month period that I was in that hellacious space. And then you said, what did my voice sound like, was the second question. How did it sound? It didn't really, Jody, it didn't really have much of a sound, because it wasn't like I went from no voice to, hi, how's it going? Right. It wasn't that. I had close to a year of vocal coaching.
Okay.
That I had to undergo in order to strengthen my vocal cords. And in my book, I write that they're like a muscle. They are a muscle.
Right.
And when you don't use your muscles, what happens? They atrophy. They're not being used. My vocal muscle atrophied. It was not in use for close to 4 months. So it would go like I have a rubber band here. I didn't play on this, but there's a rubber band sitting next to the computer. It was like a rubber band. It would go in and out. And I'd speak, and then it would collapse. And then sometimes it would go longer, and then sometimes it would collapse. And like a rubber band too, when you warm it up, you warm up the band, you have more.
Yeah.
You can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have more and more periods of this before it would collapse. And then I would go, and then it would, if I got upset about something, it would like collapse quicker. So the emotion had to do with it also, with the voice. So it was really a lot of exercises, then I would research what other exercises, in addition to the ones my coach gave me, because I was YouTubing exercises for vocal cords. Because I was determined to get better. Once I found out it wasn't permanent, I knew I had some control to help myself get better. So I was doing research on top of the exercise she gave me. What more can I do to speed this process? And I needed the time for sure. That's why I was pulled out of life, to go back into life stronger. So it wasn't speeding it up to get better. It was speeding up the strength to, like, instead of doing 5-pound weights, you do 10, then you do, 15, then you do 20 or more reps or whatever you're doing to make it stronger as you're building your muscle. The same thing with me. I was doing more exercises, adding into what I was given by my vocal coach. Wow. So that's it. That's what it was. So there would be more and more time before the voice would collapse. It would, and as it was getting stronger, it would last longer.
Wow. So powerful. And what an inspiration that you are to so many, because now you are using your voice. You are helping people around the world. So tell us a little bit about how you're doing that.
So I do have a coaching program. aptly named V.O.I.C.E. It's a voice blueprint that I take my clients through. So like you and I were communicating a little bit before this interview, and it was the V is for vulnerability, because I believe in finding your voice, you need to be vulnerable. You got to get real.
Yeah.
And then O is for ownership. You've got to take stock in your life and take ownership and responsibility for where you are and what brought you to this point. Not to look back, but to use it as a learning to move forward, a learning experience. And then I is for ignite, to ignite that fuel, that soul within you, to propel you to where you're not supposed to be. And then C is for courage, because I believe it takes courage in finding your voice to get to where you want to be, but you need all the steps before that. And finally, the last part of it is E, is empower,
So good.
because you get, it's like you add the V plus O plus I plus C equals empower and
Wow.
empowerment. Because at the end, you will be empowered in using your voice and going through the course. So it's a voice blueprint that I take people through, and I'm really excited about it because I know there's so many hurting out there right now. And it's called, again, the book, Finding Your Voice, Unlock Your Chains and Unleash Your Greatness. And really, I'm gonna say this, being very vulnerable. The chains I was bound up in were my very own. And unlock your greatness, unlock your chains and unleash your greatness is to unleash the greatness I've always had within me, to unleash it out into the world, into others, needing to hear the voice that I have to help them in their life to unlock their chains, unleash their greatness, and find their own voice. We don't want to be like anybody else. It's, so easy. You pick up your phone before you're barely awake. People laying in bed looking at a phone before they even, said hello to the world. And they're so following everybody else. And look what this one's doing, look what that one's doing. Time is precious. We're all here for a certain amount of time. And yes, I am on social media too. I'm not going to say I'm not, but I also have a morning routine.
Me too.
And picking up the phone to look on social media is not my first priority. I do affirmations, I do meditations. I thank God for giving me another day to make an impact. I want to be able to impact and impart words of wisdom to be able to impact others as I go along my journey to help others in theirs. You can't do that if you're always looking at other people's stuff. Like, to stay in your own lane and to stay focused on what you're doing, you'll be able to get to where you're going much quicker. Not that you're speeding, because you got to go through your steps in your process of what you want to do. But don't be so quick to catch up to somebody else. Right. This is your journey. They're on their own journey. And you don't know what everybody else went through to where they are now. You only see what they want you to see on social media.
I was talking about that earlier today. Me and my friend were talking about that. People are like, oh, wow, they're overnight success. Where did they even come from? And it's like, you've no idea. It's like an iceberg. You see a beautiful iceberg and it's so gorgeous and you're so in awe and, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But you've no idea what's underneath there, or a tree, even the dirt and the roots and the things that took for that tree to be as big and beautiful as it is. So don't get discouraged in your journey, whatever that may be, because God has a plan for all of us. And some people get frustrated because they don't feel like they're getting there fast enough. But you got to know it's in God's plan. I mean, it's just like you never thought you'd be out of corporate America. You probably thought you would do that for the rest of your life, but God had to slow you down, literally, physically, spiritually, every which way there was, so that he could build you back up. Physically, spiritually, mentally. So, I just got chill bumps on that one. So I hate we're out of time, but we are. I'm going to put every which way that I can underneath here for people to follow you, reach out to you, talk to you, go buy her book. It is an international bestseller. It could help you find your voice as well. Renee, thank you for being here so very much.
Jody,
you're a light.
So are you, my friend. And thank you so much. Much gratitude and love to you for having me as a guest on your show. It's been an honor and a privilege. And I am so grateful to share our voices together today.
Yes, me too. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Jody Paar, JodyPaar. You can learn more about me on jodypar.com. And we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.